Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We are working on the race truck engine, and I'll be honest, I stopped the time lapse halfway through because we had a couple of tappets that didn't want to go down, and unfortunately I had to use a burr bit, a little bit of sandpaper. Not sure if they got nicked or what, but either way, disaster averted. We got it all flushed out, and then I started the time lapse right back up, put the lifters in. So it's always a good idea to check those. And now we have the crank in being held in by one stud. And we do that because we need to put our front cover on. And it'll make more sense, but essentially because this girdle gets the front oil pan rail, in order to get a good seal on your front cover to your oil pan rail, or in this case girdle, I find it's easier to put the front cover on first. So we are going to go ahead and measure our oil galley plug here as well. And then I also set the crank in. It was a good test run. We forgot to put our J-jets in. So we do have our piston squirters. And I just wanted to point out, this was brand new in the package. Look at that. Look at that. That would have been no bueno. So it's kind of one of those things. You'd expect new parts to be good parts, but they're not always good parts, so check your parts. So I just threw a used one I had in there. It's better than what we got there. And like I keep telling everybody, it's pretty much a hand grenade anyway, so if it lives, if it dies, who knows? So I'm going to go ahead and throw the front cover on. It'll kind of be a boring time lapse because I didn't label the bolts, so I'm going to have to kind of figure out which bolts go where, and then we'll pick it back up where we leave off. I also can't remember if on Steve's I'm able to use a factory gasket or not, so I got a little bit of figuring out to do. It's not a problem with Steve's product. It's more of, he probably told me many times before and I have forgotten, so now I need to unforget on my own because it's 11 o'clock at night, and yeah, that's where we're at. So all right, it is much later. We have our bolts all figured out there. It does use a factory gasket for most of it except that top corner. We went ahead and put a factory gasket there just for spacing. I felt like it would be better. Then we went ahead and got our rear main with the wear sleeve put on as well. So now we can essentially put the girdle on. It's always good to just do a quick double check real quick. Make sure you didn't forget anything. It's a lot easier with everything out of the way, but got a good gasket squish all the way around there. Be able to cut most of that off. And now we're going to apply a very thin bead of RTV, basically where the girdle is going to seal. So we'll just kind of follow this pattern here. Sometimes what I like to do is set the girdle down and trace the edges. That way you kind of have an idea. And then we do need to make sure we seal this pickup tube well. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. You want a little bit of the RTV to squish into your pickup tube. And then with it upside down, you take a razor blade, cut that RTV out. That makes sure you get a good seal, because the last thing you want to do is have a suction leak with it in the engine. Yeah, a little tech tip Wednesday night here. Let's get this to focus. There we go. Okay, so you got your Cummins oil pump gasket, pickup tube gasket. You guys see there, let me shine the light on a little better here. You guys see how that fits great, right? Well, I can't tell you how many people will put this on backwards. The bolt holes still line up, right? So people don't panic, but you're actually choking the pickup tube down quite a bit. So remember to actually make sure you lay the gasket correctly. Wrong? Rotate it 180 degrees. Correct. All right. Just for you, I'm putting the pickup tube on. And that right there, folks. How's she gonna sit tonight? Gonna let that RTV set up. Get back on this in the morning. Just kind of the way it's got to be. I don't necessarily want to put the cam in just yet. And it's very late at night already, and I don't want to mess up a ring fighting it. So we played my favorite game, which is how many washers do we have to stack in between the spacer plate here. And hopefully you guys are liking what you're seeing. Wagler supplied bolts that were a little too long. Not sure. It's been a long time since we bought this, so I'll shoot them a message, just let them know, but I'm sure they're already aware. It's no big deal. I had ARPs in stock. And then we ended up using a couple of the socket caps with some washers. We could have got it done either way. Put longer bolts for the pickup tube because now it's going through this girdle plate, which I think is 3/8. I guess I could check it for you. It might only be 1/4 inch. Ooh, about 450. Probably 7/16. So it's a decent girdle. We used to run Eric at No Limits girdle, which was a 7/8 inch bed plate, very large. So our cross member already has clearance and all that. Not that worried about it. Holes don't line up perfect on the front cover here, so we'll have to take a drill to that, but that's no big deal. Basically, you get it to where you're gonna put the oil pan on, and you put the oil pan on, tip the engine, so this side's lower, you ream the holes out. It's no big deal. It happens all the time. I've had it happen on No Limits, industrials, this girdle. It's hard with all the shifting and everything of the cases and thicknesses and the RTV. So it's just, you just drill it out. It's really not a big deal. All the rest of the holes lined up though, so that was nice. We got our crank in there. I'm getting excited. Can't flip it over and show you guys anything because if I flip it over, all the tappets fall out. So this is where it'll sit for tonight. But everything's cleaned over there. I'm gonna probably throw a trash bag over it just to make sure it stays that way, and then we'll throw a bag over this as well. Can't ever be too clean. This process takes a while. It's like the lifters, you know, I've never had to do that before. I just kind of common sensed it and deburred it a little bit, and it went smoother. And then I took a little sandpaper, dropped right in like it should. I only fought a couple of them, so no big deal. The girdle bolts being too long, that was an easy spot. They looked a little long when I took them out of the box, but then, you know, you just measure and move on. So we got that caught, and so far we haven't fought anything too crazy. Okay, so no joke, spent about 35 minutes on this plug, but we got it where it doesn't lock the oil galley. We have about 60 thousandths of thickness left. Now we're gonna drop in our No Limit cam. Should work out great. Ran this cam many times, and we'll lube it up. I use the black moly lube on all of the journals, and then on the lifter bores I use the Hot Shots lube. And now that our cam is installed, I'm gonna go ahead and get our crank and cam thrust measurement. I like to do it while the engine's like vertical one way or the other, and basically just use a pry bar and pry up, see how much it comes up. And we're getting pretty close to the final couple measurements here. We'll see what the cam and crank thrust are and keep moving forward. And for those of you guys trying to do this at home, sorry for the shaky camera work. Dial indicator set up. Just pick a counterweight, doesn't matter which one, and then you're going to essentially pry up. And another good idea that I did off camera, but I'll show you. You want to kind of pry down first. We're still zeroed. All right, now we're gonna call that 7. And you do the same thing for the cam. Cam, I usually just pry under the cam gear. Works the best right here, and get that measurement. Now, unfortunately, due to time constraints, guys, I'm gonna set up the time lapse for assembling the pistons. I'm not gonna oil the rings or the pistons. I'm just going to oil the pins, and I will also lube the bearings. Reason for that, I don't have enough time today to slop them all in there. So rather than have them dribbling engine oil all over the table all day while I'm gone, we will skip that and install those tonight. That'll basically get us pretty close to the end of the video anyway. So I'm gonna, like I said, I'll get you guys set up on a time lapse. Y'all can watch me and put them together. But the big thing is, I just don't want oil leaking all over the place. So yeah, everything's already clean, and we had it all bagged up. So makes it real nice for the next morning here. And we're done with that black assembly lube. I only use this stuff on the cams. Seems to work really good. This and that Hot Shots stuff has worked extremely well for me. The Hot Shots was a freebie, I'll be honest, and it worked really, really good. And then I ended up buying more and more and more. So, yeah, let's get to assembling those. Alright guys, and that is where we're going to leave it for right now. I'm going to finish cleaning up in here and get ready for the rest of my day. Then tonight we'll come back and knock out the pistons in here. Okay, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. So we are going to go ahead and pull our protective trash bags off here. I already unbagged the engine. And now we are going to go ahead and essentially do the final clean on the block. What I mean by the final clean, we'll take a microfiber and some acetone, wipe out all the cylinder bores. Then we will put engine oil on the bores, wipe it on with our hands. And then once we are done with that, we'll make sure all of our rod journals are clean. Okay. And then from there, we will go ahead and lube up our rod bearings. Our ARP bolts are already lubed up. We might touch a couple, and we'll drop our pins in. So we will not stop until all the pistons are in. It'll be fun. Usually, I don't know, it doesn't take too long. But we'll get all of this prepped, and then I'll show you guys the block prep, and then we'll start knocking them in. Okay, so we have our block all pre-oiled. You guys saw that. We got our rods all lubed up. Button caps, ring gaps spaced. And I'll tell you this, it comes in the instructions. You don't have to be a rocket scientist, all right? So we're gonna go ahead and start plinking these in. I always like to start with the crappiest one, which is like 6 and 5, because I gotta bend over. And I'm gonna get the tool, and then once we get it all set up, I'll hit record and we'll start plinking these in here. Just like with your main studs, head studs, all that, rod bolts are the same way. You torque them in 3 equal steps, and we'll be good to go here. Look at that. 6 diamonds. Oh, it's beautiful. What a beautiful chocolate man. Yes, sir. None of the rods hit the sleeves. I've had that problem before. It's really bad on non-deck plates. On a deck plate, it's not as bad. But that is the install of our short block, essentially. Got an oil cooler, oil pump, gotta throw our CP3 gears in there, and then our adapter plate to keep the cam from puking oil, as well as our oil pan. So I wouldn't say 100% done, but we've cleared a lot of room, and this guy is coming to get his transmission tomorrow. So I'm gonna clean up this bench, put a bunch of stuff away that we no longer need, and then throw this valve body and this deep pan on, so that way I can get paid tomorrow, which would be great. And yeah, not too bad. Hopefully this video was easy to digest and somewhat informative. You don't need the fancy piston ring tool. I have been using that O'Reilly's tool for 3.5 years, at least 100 engines, still going strong. One day I'll buy the ARPs. It's just not going to be today. And after this now, you can actually start setting the head gasket and the head on. But I think I'll save that for our next video. And we can do piston to valve clearance, just going off of previous measurements, previous experiences with this camshaft. With this piston protrusion, we can kind of evaluate. Our piston and valve clearance should be right around 65 thousandths, which is a little higher than I normally do it. However, in case we want to change the cam, or this engine just absolutely flails the RPM, maybe we can save something. So I err on a little side of bigger. The compression on this guy should be right at about 16.7 to 16.8 to 1, which is basically almost a stock 5.9 stock compression. So I'm not a huge believer in the low compression engines. I find these work great, take a lot of power, they start good, they usually idle decent. So that's how I do it. Everyone has a different idea, and that's fine. That's what's great about the internet. Everyone can be right if you want. So yeah, not too much challenge. Like I said, the oil galley plugs and the lifter bore kind of threw me, but other than that, it wasn't too bad. Again, this is a no limit 207 220 cam with no limit DLC coated tappets, a stock Cummins crank with the gear welded on. These are Waggler Deckplate connecting rods. These are diamond 4 1/8 bore 6-7 style pistons. We're running total seal rings, a 3-piece oil, a 2-piece second, which is gapless, and our normal top compression ring. We're running DLC coated pins and button cap style retainers. We have a Waggler billet main cap with Waggler girdle, 14 mil main studs, and that's gonna just about wrap it up. We also have one Cummins oil squirter and a couple of other brands as well, due to a little issue, but we'll keep chugging along, soldiering on. And then also the star of the show, this new Performance Auto billet aluminum dual CP3 cover, which I'm very excited for. And our cam gear is also welded. I forgot about that as well. So give this one a big thumbs up. We are getting close. I would say we'll probably have 4 or 5 videos before you guys hear this thing take its breath. We'll have one more for the cylinder head. We'll probably have one removing the old one, putting the new one in, and then we'll have our first fur. So it's exciting. Hopefully we're on track for NHRDA. So far it looks good. And yeah, if you guys are watching this, NHRDA burnout competition sponsored by Power Driven Diesel. It's supposed to be pretty rowdy, and we're trying to get people to come to these NHRDA events. It's in Chandler, Arizona, Wild Horse Park, just outside of Phoenix. I've been there before. It's a great track. It's in March. Shouldn't be too hot. Should be a great event. And see some cool burnouts, diesel trucks. They have a dyno, show and shine. So there's something for everyone. If I do go, which I hope I will, my kids will be there. So if my kids can be there, your kids can be there as well. Give this one a big thumbs up. Drop your comments down below. Subscribe if you're not already. And as always, I'll catch y'all on the next one.